Welcome to the Pan Am Podcast, brought to you by the Pan Am Museum in Garden City, New York. This podcast and our museum are dedicated to celebrating the legacy of the world's most iconic airline, Pan American World Airways. My name is Tom Betty, and I'm the host of this program. Thank you for joining us. This program is sponsored by the generous support of Mr. Adam Aron, the CEO of AMC Entertainment Holdings Incorporated. The Pan Am Museum Foundation is a nonprofit organization. Please visit our website for more information at thepanammuseum.org. Again, our website is thepanammuseum.org. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If you are using Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a review. It will help others discover this program. If you're not familiar with Pan Am, welcome. We are honored to have you here, and for you to learn about what we're all about. If you already know of Pan Am, worked for or flown on the airline, or just love our history, it's good to be with you again. So with that, let's get this episode in the air, so to speak. Welcome aboard your Pan American Jet Clipper. In this episode, we are joined by Captain Beau Brant of United Airlines. He first started flying professionally in 1999 and flew corporate, cargo, and at 2 United regional carriers, and then joined United Airlines in 2005. He's flown regional jets, 757s, 767s, 787s, and currently, for the last 5 years, has flown the A320 Airbus as captain. When he is not in the air, his other passion is music, and today, in addition to being a commercial airline pilot, he is a celebrated classical pianist who loves to play the piano wherever he can, either in formal settings or playing in hotel and airport lobbies around the world on layovers. Captain Brant will be our special musical guest at the Pan Am Museum Foundation's annual Gala weekend on Friday, November 11th and Saturday, November 12th, 2022. For more information on our fundraising gala, visit our website at thepanammuseum.org. On the evening of Friday, November 11th, join us for a special event reception at LaGuardia Airport, Terminal A, hosted by our sister organization, the Pan Am Historical Foundation. This dedication reception commemorates Pan Am's historic operation of the Marine Air Terminal between 1940 and 1948, and also the new Boeing 314 model that was recently installed. The next day, on the evening of Saturday, November 12th, join us in Garden City, New York for this year's Pan Am Museum Annual Gala as we celebrate Pan Am's legacy with the gala theme Flying Down to Rio. 2 great events, 1 special Pan Am weekend. Visit our website, thepanammuseum.org, for more information and to purchase your tickets. Now on to our interview with Captain Beau Brant of United Airlines, who will be our special musical guest for this year's Pan Am Museum Foundation's annual fundraising gala. Captain Beau Brant has been featured on NBC Nightly News, The New York Times, The Denver Post, The Virginian Pilot, and several online publications. He has recorded numerous albums, and 6 are available online right now from Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube, Spotify, Rhapsody Radio, and on his Facebook page, which is called Beau Brant Piano. In the fall of 2020, Captain Brant released a new album of some of his favorite and popular songs called 4 Decades. For more information on Captain Brant and his music, visit his website, beaubrantmusic.com. There is a link in the episode description. A very special welcome to Captain Brant to the Pan Am podcast.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's an honor to be here, and what an exciting series of podcasts. And again, I feel honored to be on your show as well.
Well, we're honored to have you. So you have been interviewed by the New York Times, National Network News. Oprah Winfrey likes your music. You're on Apple Music, Amazon Music. How many albums do you have so far?
So over the years, I've completed 7 albums, but 6 of the 7 are online digitally. One was way back in the days when I actually did tapes, and that is no longer in existence. I have 1 left.
Are you going to frame it? Are your kids like, what is this, Dad?
I have it in our safe of just some of those documents just to hold on to, and hopefully, way in the future, we'll find a way to play it.
So you are a celebrated piano player, and you're also a pilot for United Airlines. Tell us a little bit about the dual passions that you have.
Absolutely. It started when I was a very young boy. My parents had a piano, and I started just coming up to the piano and playing the keys when I was 3 years old. I took formal lessons from 5 to 15, and I just had that love for music. I noticed from a young age, even though I was taking lessons, that I just loved to sit down every day, and I would try to just create pieces of music. I think the very first original piece that I did, which I can still play. I was about 6 years old. It was just a very simple melody, but I just had the love of piano pretty much my entire life, and I love keeping up with it today. Growing up, how it kind of mixes in with flying. If you want me to go ahead and get into that,
yes, please.
While I was playing the piano, I had about 7 airline pilot neighbors that were all within a mile or 2 of the house that I grew up in. So I had some really great mentors from a young age, and was introduced to the airline world probably when I was about 5 or 6, getting to wear the pilot hat and go to the Denver United Training Center. I was fortunate to go, usually 1 or 2 times a year to fly the simulators. So how these kind of go together was, as I was growing up, my dad, who unfortunately is no longer here. We did unexpectedly lose him 2 years ago now, but he was a very high level thinker, entrepreneur, always was starting his own businesses, and a lot of ups and downs, but a lot of great things that he did. But when I was going through my flight training, there was definitely some difficult times, financially, where, how are we going to pursue this flight training with the costs. So I first started playing at restaurants when I was 12 years old. And during that time, just playing about 3 to 4 nights a week all throughout junior high and high school, into college, I was able to pay for quite a bit of my flight training with the piano. Then I realized, throughout my airline career, even at the regional airlines, I flew United Express for a while before United. I would find little pianos, and even if we only had 1 flight attendant and another pilot, maybe before we went to dinner, I would play. And where it really started, United was in Frankfurt, Germany. We arrived one morning, and when we got into the hotel, we had landed a little bit early. And the hotel said, unfortunately, because you have arrived early, it's going to be about an hour until we can get you access to your room. So we're all waiting in the lobby, the flight attendants and pilots. We happen to stay at the same hotel on that trip. And I did see a piano in the corner. This was in 2005. And I thought, well, you know what, I can play some morning music here. And I didn't really tell the crew yet that I had played the piano, but I asked the front desk. They said, yeah, go ahead and play. We'd enjoy that. And I ended up just playing a few songs, and then the flight attendants and pilots said, that hour went by, in a moment's notice, and then they said, well, hey, before we go to dinner, let's have you play again. So that evening I played a happy hour, and then United, that kind of started the tradition of pretty much most of the layovers that I would fly in Europe, whether it was Zurich, Geneva, Paris, Frankfurt. I had pianos all over that I would consistently play at, and it was a great way to get the crews together. That was my favorite thing about it. Is it was a way to help me get to where I am today. And I thought this was a great way to give back because, flying, during 9/11 and right at the 9/11 world, it kind of was a divide where we started to stay in different hotels. We would, that flight deck door security became a lot more, rigid where really we didn't have a lot of interaction with the flight attendants. So I thought that this was a great way to get our crews together. We would have a nice, piano happy hour and then go to dinner together. And that's been, now I guess 18 years later of at least the United, 18 years later, this is what I still enjoy doing as much as possible.
And you become a celebrity. You are known as the piano playing pilot.
I feel honored to have that name, but it's kind of fun. And I guess the point of that is that we all have our passions, and it's so fun to see, all the different things that fellow crew members do. But this is as I said, a great way to get everyone together. And I love giving back and playing for passengers, fellow crew members, just whoever wants to listen.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about your inspiration to get into aviation.
Absolutely. So, back to that story growing up where I had several airline pilot neighbors, it was just I was just so intrigued by, being able to ride on an airplane. My family, we did go on quite a few trips. So from a very young age, I would visit the flight deck, and then having these neighbors that would just kind of inspire me from a young age to, hey, you can do this someday. And, look at this hat and look at these epaulets, on your shoulder. And then getting to go to fly the simulator at the Denver Training Center. Back in the day, it was a DC-8 simulator and 747, 100 and 200, 727, some very, very classic airliners. And I knew from the first time I got to take off and land, even in the simulator at a very, very young age, that this is exactly what I wanted to do. So, these great mentors that I've had throughout my career, it's just been such a great thing. And I've tried to take, what I've learned from them and hopefully pass on to our next generation. Since we are on the Pan Am podcast, one of the neighbors that I'd like to point out, his name was Captain Jeff Canode. He actually was one of the original pilots when the 747 was introduced at Pan Am. And I spent so much time with him over the years. He had two children that I became good friends with. One of them is flying right now in flight training. And even though he retired from, he came over to United in 1986 and retired in 2002. We've stayed in touch all these years, and his nickname is actually D2, Dad 2. So what was so fun growing up, with him was I heard all the nostalgia of the Pan Am 747s, the trips around the world, all the great times that they had as crew, stories with passenger interaction. And I think it's just been such a part of who I am today that, even though we're in the modern jet era, I still try to make an onboard experience. I want it to feel like it's, back in the 60s and 70s where, if you want to hear, I'll share some of the things that I do on board the aircraft with my crew, but I really do enjoy, trying to make an experience. We have so many airlines. It's very competitive right now. And, I feel that, for most people, you go online, you buy a ticket, and, you might find what airline, just is the best price for your need there. But my goal is I want to try to grab those passengers that maybe haven't flown on United and create an experience with them that they'll want to keep coming back. So some things that I like to do, and I would say this kind of ties into Pan Am. I learned that there was a captain's flight log where, some of the pilots would do a log that they would give to first class passengers that would show their routing, the weather en route, some of those really neat things, because Pan Am really was such a pioneer in their dispatch procedures, the weather planning, and so many things that we do today, I think really came from Pan Am. So I think we have a lot to think of. So a lot to be thankful of. So what I like to do, on my flights is, the flight duties come first. That's always a priority. So, my first officer and I, well, let me step back. Right now I'm flying the Airbus A320. So years and years of flying long haul, all across all across the Atlantic and Pacific, South America. The last almost 5 years, I've been doing more North America flying on the Airbus. So, when we get to the aircraft, we do all of our flight duties, the walk around, our briefings, make sure everything is completed up front. And then, we always try to, or my goal as the captain is always to try to get that done, a little bit early. So that way we have maybe right before our scheduled departure time, we have maybe a 8 to 10 minute period where we can do some nice customer engagement. And what I like to do is use our iPad, and I take a couple screenshots prior to departure of where the turbulence is, the weather en route, and actually show the actual routing. And I started this actually about 10 years ago when we first got our iPads, because I thought, what a great tool that we can get our customers involved in this, and really make the flight more transparent, and you can feel like you're actually part of the flight. So what I do is I start with first class. I give them a little briefing, and I show the weather, the flight time en route, where there's going to be potential turbulence. And then I started a couple of years ago realizing it just takes a few minutes before a departure. But then I go about every 10 rows, our economy plus section, go to the exit row, and go all the way to the last row of the airplane. And I just try to make sure that every customer, knows where, all the flight. And I do notice there's a lot of nervous flyers there. So I'm hoping that this will help give them a little better experience to know where those bumps are. And then what I do is before we push back, I think it's so important to introduce my entire flight crew. So I bring my first officer out and in the cabin, and I try to do the PA address from the front of the aircraft. So I introduce who's going to be actually flying the airplane, and especially I think a lot of the public feels that it's always the captain who flies the airplane, and that's really not the case. Usually what we do is we trade every other flight. So if it's the first officer's, his or her leg, I say, hey, this is Christine here. She's going to be flying the aircraft and, doing the takeoff and landing and all the flying here. And then it's so important to introduce the cabin crew. So my flight attendants, so I always introduce our purser and the other flight attendants that are going to be in the back. Because, my goal is just, I want the passengers to know, who, we're all here, that they're all part of our family, and we want them to feel welcome aboard. So I found that these little things you can do before departure that just takes a few minutes really makes that great experience. Another thing I like to do is we have some amazing technology where we actually can see on the seat map, internally, if it's somebody's birthday or if they're one of our premium flyers. So I've made some cards that like a birthday card, for example, I make sure to have the entire crew sign the card, and we just surprise, the passenger randomly, like, hey, happy birthday. And it's a little drawing that I did. And I make sure the whole crew is involved. I just think it's so cool. Important to make these experiences in a flight. Cause I feel like if somebody remembers that, versus just buying a ticket from point A to B, that, hey, I remembered, that crew and just how well, hopefully they feel that they were treated well, but, that's bringing back some of that nostalgia where it would tie into Pan Am, where people remember the experiences from those flight crews, and flying was a really big deal then. So even though it's just, a domestic flight, 2 hours at a time, I feel that every flight counts, and it's so fun to try to make an experience that people will remember.
That's great. That's very inspiring. And for our listeners, in 1986, the Pacific Division of Pan American World Airways was sold to United Airlines, and most of the Pacific Division was transferred and became United Airlines employees. And then at the end, in 1991, the Heathrow operation went to United Airlines. So United Airlines history is intertwined with Pan Am history.
Very much so.
So we have a treat for our listeners. Captain Brant is going to play a song. It's about 6 minutes long. So Captain Brant, take it away.
All right. So I'm working on a new album that will be coming out hopefully this November 2022. So this will be my seventh actual published album. The album title is called Inspiration. So the song that I'll be playing for you all is the title track, Inspiration. I've had just so many experiences over the last 3 or 4 years where a lot of these pieces that are going to be on this new album, they're all original compositions, but they're about places that I've been around the world and experiences that I've had. I know we've had a difficult 2 years, and I'm really excited to kind of, hopefully create a nice positive album that will create a good, an experience where, dinner or the evening, you have a glass of wine that you can sit and kind of listen to a story without music. So again, I'm going to play here right now the title track called Inspiration, and I hope you enjoy it.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm very excited about this new album, and kind of like I said, the feeling and tone of the album. It's a little bit different than the other albums that I've composed.
Yeah. And, so you're like the whole package deal here. People can listen to your music while flying on your airplanes.
Kind of crazy to think about, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're not playing. I mean, you probably would like to, but you can't have a piano in an Airbus. But yeah. So tell us where listeners can purchase your music.
I've been very, very fortunate to be on all the mainstream online media sources. So if you check out Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify, Rhapsody Radio, I think there's about 7 to 10 online venues that have my 6 albums that are on there. I had a lot of people over the year that had said, hey, you really need you to have a Christmas album. So I did a holiday album a couple of years ago. During the COVID era, I did an album called 4 Decades because I've been playing for 40 years. So that was a really fun album where only one is an original, but the other ones, I've done some covers from Ed Sheeran, Adele, the Titanic theme song. So, I really do enjoy when I play at events and restaurants. There's a lot of those songs that I really enjoy. So I did have fun, kind of putting other people's work together in that. But the other 4 are all original compositions. So with this album, when it's produced, I will have 94 original compositions. Spanning now, I guess, quite some time now. So it's been again an honor to keep both of these careers going. So please check it out. I do have a website. If you go to beaubrantmusic.com, again, that's BEAUBRANT music.com. I do have the NBC video, some of the New York Times article, the Denver Post article, and you can see some videos and links to my music that are on there. So please check that out when you can as well.
And let's talk about the New York Times article, because some of our listeners may remember, but I live in Ohio, and I am a proud Ohioan. And one of our landmark hotels in Ohio is in Cincinnati, the Netherland Plaza Hotel. And I understand that that's one of your favorite places to play. So I wanted to bring that up so we can talk about it. And this hotel has one of the greatest Art Deco architecture really in the country. It's a great example of the era, the early 1930s. Tell us why this is a favorite place for you to play.
Sure, absolutely. Looking back over the years, I've been so fortunate to play in places. Actually, from Shanghai, China, I had 2 routine places that I would have played in Sydney and Melbourne, Australia. Paris at a hotel right next to the Eiffel Tower. I mean, some really, really great places over the years. But now that I've been flying domestically, it's been a little harder to find a piano. So just about a year and a half ago, the Airbus started going back into Cincinnati and from Denver, where my domicile is. And, when we first stayed there, when I first walked in, I was like, wow, what an amazing hotel. And I looked to the right at the check-in and I saw this amazing grand bar. And then I was like, whoa, there's a piano. And I saw this, 9-foot Baldwin concert grand that's probably 50 years old. So that evening, when we first got in, we had a 32 or 33 hour layover. I came down and introduced myself and met the maitre d' of the bar there, the Palms Court restaurant. And she was just incredibly kind. And she said, hey, right now we normally have jazz music from, 7 to 9. But when we got in, it was actually, past that point. So she let me play that evening. And then, after that, basically when I would come back, I would continue to play there. So how this happened at the New York Times was one of the other times I was playing. I did an earlier set. The jazz group played for a while, and then I did the kind of the closing set before the bar closed down for the night. So I had fun, doing about an hour and a half set. And then during that time, I took a quick 5-minute break, and a guest in the audience came up and said that, hey, I'd like to talk to you once we're done with your playing. So at the end of the night, I had sat down with this individual for a little bit after, as the bar was closing down, and he introduced himself, said that he had a idea for me, and that he had been a writer, New York Times, Washington Post, Virginia pilot. His name was Carl Finkel, and then just an incredible writer. Really enjoyed reading all of his works. And he just found out that I was an airline captain on my layover playing at this venue, and he. Again, it was just such an honor to see that he recognized my passion for it, and then he proposed it to the New York Times, and then it was featured in the New York Times about almost exactly this time a year ago. So that was a huge honor, and then since then it's opened up a few more doors with NBC and a couple other papers, the Denver Post. I was featured in the Airline Pilots magazine actually 2 months ago, so that was an honor to get to be sent out to all the airline pilots in the magazine. And so again, it's just been, like I said, this last year, it's definitely been an honor for playing all these years, and this recognition that's happened lately.
That's great. One of the things that I'm most proud of with this program is we have many younger listeners that listen to our program, and they send messages on social media and email that some of them are in high school. And they're listening. We have a 12-year-old in Australia that she just loves our program. Wow. And loves Pan Am history. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to get into aviation, and what message you have for them if they're thinking about getting into aviation?
Sure, absolutely. I love one of the biggest things in this is make sure, anytime you meet a pilot or somebody in the industry, definitely stay in touch with them, because I feel like every job that I have had, it's been because of networking and just all the amazing passion in this industry. You'll, from all walks of life, it's just incredible, the people that I've been fortunate to work with. Looking back again, just having these amazing neighbors that inspired me. I started flying actually when I was 12 years old. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's when I took my first working on my private pilot's license. I have 3 children, and one of them, my oldest, his name is Nolan. We had to keep that tradition in the family. So he started flying at 12 years old too. And he's 14 now. He has 15 hours of flying, and so excited. He's definitely airline bound. So he has the bug that I had too. But
does he play any music?
He does. He's an amazing cello player. Even though he's focused on football right now, high school football, he still plays in the orchestra, and he really does have a great sound. So I'm really excited. And I keep telling him, you've got to keep this up, because you have this talent, and I promise you someday it is going to be, you're going to be so glad that you didn't stop playing. But so to your listeners around the world, if you feel you have that passion for wanting to be in this industry and fly, it's such an exciting time. We have so many, just tremendous amount of, airplanes on order growth. And this, I feel like this is abroad to all airlines. We have quite a few, thousands of pilots that are going to be retiring over the next decade, tremendous orders of new airplanes. So there is such a bright future for this travel and this industry. So I'm really, really excited for the future. What I would say is definitely go take a discovery flight. It's about $100, and you get to actually go up for an hour with an instructor. And anybody who's interested in flying, it's such a great way to kind of feel that, hey, is this something I want to do? And most people I know that take a discovery flight usually get hooked right away. But the flight training is expensive. It's about 3 times the cost of when I went through. But I think there's a lot of great resources out there to help with, people that might need some sort of financial help. And there's a lot of scholarships available, but you can kind of go through, you have to work on your private pilot's license, then your instrument license to fly, and, to learn how to read the instruments when you fly through the clouds. Then you get your commercial pilot's license. Then you have a choice to get your multi-engine license, then a certified flight instructor rating, instrument rating, and then or certified flight instructor instrument rating. And then finally, once you hit the 1,500 hours, that's your airline transport license, which allows you to actually fly, passengers. So typically, what's called the ATP, once you get your ATP, that's when you're typically at the regional airlines. Typically, you have to spend about 2 to 3 years there. And right now, again, it's such a great time. And then hopefully you can make it to, all the major airlines out there that are hiring right now. And again, it's a pretty exciting time after, some ups and downs the last 20 years, but right now, I don't see any end in sight to it. Again, what I would say is that, it's challenging. Looking back on it, you're going to make lots of mistakes, but mistakes are good. You learn from mistakes. It makes you a better pilot and better person, and don't focus on what you did wrong. Just do the next thing right, and that much better, and have fun with it. Most importantly, don't try to go from a Cessna 172 wishing you were on, a 747 or Airbus A380 or 777, because it's such a journey, and every bit of it, when I look back, it's already been a blur for me, but I have loved every moment of it, from, flying the little regional turboprops and, jets. And, I've flown the 757, 767, 787, Airbus 319 and 320 at United. So, such an amazing group of airplanes to fly all over the world in. And again, it's just every bit of the journey is amazing. So if you have that passion, just enjoy the people you get to work with, learn new things every day, keep pushing yourself. And I think it's so incredibly worth it in the end.
And I did a little homework before this interview. Yes. And United Airlines has over 14,000 pilots.
Yes.
And this year, 2022, they plan to hire 2,000 more pilots. And in 2030, they're going to be on track to have an additional 10,000 pilots. And United Airlines captains can earn more than $350,000 annually. That's great. That's a great career. Mm-hmm. And United Airlines also has a website for anyone interested in getting into aviation. It's United's Aviate Academy, and their website is unitedaviate.com. And I'll put this in the episode notes. Is there anything you wanted to add about the training program of United Airlines?
Absolutely. We do. It's really, again, really exciting to hear those numbers that, next year we'll have like I said, an additional 2,000 pilots. I know the goal, is to be over 18,000 pilots in the next, 3 or 4 years. We have a huge order on board of new aircraft as well. We have two paths in the hiring process. We have a group that will be coming from the, regional airlines, from other partners that are not with United Express. Some that will be coming from, maybe they've been in the cargo world. We have our military pilots, our corporate pilots that would like to come to United. So we'll always have our traditional hiring program. And then the Aviate program was designed because, I think we're one of the first airlines to really see that insight of the true pilot shortage coming in the future. So, there's several ways to enter the Aviate program, but United was, one of the first to buy its own flight school. And again, it's called the United Aviate Flight Academy. It's a Goodyear in Arizona. And right now they have a fleet of Cirrus aircraft, which I think is an amazing airplane. I learned in a Cessna 152, 172, 182, which are great aircraft. But I recently had stepped foot in the new Cirrus, SR-22 and other Cirrus aircraft that they're using, and it is incredible. The avionics in there just are absolutely amazing. I think this is what these future pilots are learning to fly in. Incredibly safe. Just a great airplane. So the plan with Aviate is once you get in and after you received your private pilot's license, then what you can do is actually come in and take your United Aviate interview. And that is actually your United interview. So even though it's going to be many years from then, but that is actually the last interview you would have to do until you become a United Airlines pilot. There's a lot of, gates. You have to get all your ratings. You actually would most likely end up being an instructor at the academy, teaching other future United pilots. And then you would spend at least 2 years at the regional airlines, part of our United Express family. And then once that point happens where you have at least 2,000 hours at those regional airlines and 2 years there, then you can come into United as a new hire. So the whole process is about a 5 to 6 year period. There's other ways to enter Aviate through our regional partners. If you were to maybe fly cargo and then get hired at one of our United Express airlines, you can come into Aviate that way. And so we call it the Aviate jet stream, which is again, it's a very organic way to get to United. But again, we'll always have our traditional way. But it is, an incredibly exciting future, as I said.
That's great. So I have the good fortune, and I'm very lucky to talk to many different pilots of all different ages. I talked to a captain of a Boeing 314 flying boat.
Wow.
Across decades of experience, I should say. And when I asked them the question, what is the favorite aircraft of theirs that they have flown? It's all over the map. Some people like the Stratocruiser. Some people didn't like the Stratocruiser. Some people love the 747. Others will say the 707. And the people that liked the Boeing 314, for instance, said 314. There was one pilot that loved the DC-8. Another pilot loved the DC-10. So I'm going to ask that question to you. What is your all-time favorite aircraft?
That is a tough question because you just went through such an amazing series of airplanes, and looking back, getting to fly that DC-8 simulator, and I actually rode on one of the last United DC-8s from Denver to Chicago with my father. So, gosh, that is a tough question for sure. I think for me, the 747-400, of course, I was so sad to see that go. That obviously will always have a warm heart thinking of those, lounges on the upper deck, and some of the carriers around the world actually had a piano lounge upstairs. So I wish I could have been in that era.
That's right.
But hey, I'm going to go on my crew break here and go play a couple songs. That would have been incredible. I would say, even though I've appreciated everything that I have flown, the new 787 was an incredible airplane to fly. I was fortunate to fly, I believe it was its second revenue service of the 787-10 from LA to Newark. In 2019, and we had a whole bunch of media on board, so that was really fun to get to fly that airplane. Believe it or not, I love the Airbus. I can't wait for us to get our 321 Neos and 321 Neo XLR aircraft, because they're going to be doing some narrow, thin route, long haul, some semi-long haul, 8 to 10 hour range flights now. So that's going to be incredible. Looking back, the classic 757-200, I have about 6,000 hours in the what we call the 756 fleet. It's a combined fleet where you fly all the 757 200s, 300s, and 767. Technically, we have the 200s while the 200, 300, and 400. So that 757-200, it's an amazing airplane that could stop quickly, climb out of mountainous terrain, still was fast en route. So that was definitely probably a favorite of mine. I don't know. I love all aircraft, so that is a tough question.
All right, let's pivot for a second and talk about your other passion, music. What artists have inspired you with their music?
Looking back, when I play my music, my original compositions, again, I like to create a story or an image, maybe of a feeling or an experience that I've had, and I try to translate that, in my head into music without words. So that's, of course, that's my goal in music. But when I first, started playing other people's music besides my own, I do play pretty much every genre. And I love playing, I think it's so important to be able to play all sorts of different genres, but probably my favorite, if I was just sitting down and just having a glass of wine or just enjoying, another artist's piano, I really do like Jim Brickman, George Winston, Yanni. Probably one of my absolute favorites from Italy is Ludovico Einaudi. Some of these artists, they're all piano players that do not have any words with their music, but they all tend to tell a story, and that's what I like to do is share a story without words. On my Above album, which was 2 albums ago, a lot of those songs are about experiences and places I've been. I used to fly a lot from Los Angeles to Tokyo, Narita, and Shanghai. And when you flew over the Aleutian Islands, you look down and see these volcanic islands, and you're really thousands of miles out in the Pacific there, and you would see these giant icebergs and things. So one of the songs in there is called Cold Bay. So that was, again, just looking down. Hey, even as pilots, we still love to look out the window. I love looking down and seeing all the beautiful places that we get to fly over. There's another song on there called The Crumbling Wall. We were fortunate a few years ago to go, actually it was about a decade ago now, to go to Ephesus, Turkey. And we were there actually in a wintertime day. We actually were there in January. It was still pretty nice weather, but there was no one around. And to walk in these ancient Eastern Roman Empire streets and see these columns, it was something that was just so empowering to me. So I wrote a song called The Crumbling Wall. So if you listen to it, just close your eyes and hopefully you can imagine seeing that ancient Roman city. So that's why this new album, as I said, that's coming out, there's going to be a lot of songs that are on places and experiences that I've had.
Great. Would you like to add anything else to our discussion?
With piano, I mean, just I think the biggest thing here is just I think we all have our passions and talents, and no matter what career field we're in. I mean, I just I love people, and I love connecting with people and learning what other people's passions are, and I think that's something that, especially with what we've been through the last 2 years, I think we all should be better about talking to each other, giving more hugs, just really trying to be there because the world does offer a lot of amazing talent out there, and I hope more and more people share their passions and talents with the world as well.
Well, thank you very much, Captain. What an inspiration to talk to you. I love to talk to people that have multiple passions, and you are inspiring, and I can't wait to hear you play the piano in person. Again, thank you for coming on the program.
Yeah, speaking of that, coming up in November here with the Pan Am Museum Gala, I'm so honored to be asked to play there, both on November 11th and November 12th. So to anybody in the audience, hopefully, love to meet you there, and please come up and say hello. But again, I feel so incredibly honored to play at this flying down to Rio event. This will be a true fun and honor to play out there.
Great. Well, I will see you in a month.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate your time here as well.
Pan Am was a pioneer in air travel and still stands as one of the most iconic and innovative airlines in aviation history. That legacy lives on at the Pan Am Museum in Garden City, New York, where you can explore the rich history of the aircrafts and individuals at the heart of the company known as the world's most experienced airline. For more information about the Pan Am Museum, check out our website at www.thepanammuseum.org. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. As was once a tagline in one of our commercials, we would greatly appreciate your support to help the Pan Am Museum continue making the going great. You can also support the museum by shopping on our online store for all things Pan Am: accessories, apparel, jewelry, books, models, and posters. We want to hear from you. If you have a question for us or want to share your story, our email address is podcast@thepanammuseum.org. We're going to close out this episode with another song. This one's George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, used in a United commercial played by Captain Brant. As flight crews once said to passengers departing for their destinations around the world, "Thank you for flying, Pan Am."